Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a special edition on Sports for America for the SuperDraft Sportsbook player props. So this is for the Sunday games. So join me right now is Chris Winn. I had him on my show a couple of times when it was on audio, but since it's on video, we're able to talk and also share. I can actually share screen, so that's the great thing about StreamYard. So how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Shawn. Good to see you. Busy weekend, obviously, with all the NFL action and hey, a lot of college hoops and NHL and
Oh
hockey
yeah.
going down too as well. So it's certainly good time to enjoy some postseason action when you're talking about the gridiron.
I know exactly that's right. Now, a couple of things before I get started. So right now on the SuperDraft Sportsbook, the sportsbook is temporarily unavailable, but however, you can play the player props. So that's a good thing. So as long as
Yeah.
I play the player props, I'm good. So I
hmm
don't want to mess up. Like, oh man, I want to play player props. So that's a great thing. And also, when I share the screen, it's also going to be the same thing as the SuperDraft Sportsbook. Okay, and also the SuperDraft Sportsbook is also part of the SuperDraft Pro, which is available in all 50 states. So in other words, it's not gambling, it's gaming. So that's also including Nevada as well. So if you're in Nevada, you're able to play as well. All right. So that's a great thing. All right. So let me share the screen. Someone just sent me a message. I'm like, not right now. Share the screen. We're going to go to draft. And by the way, we're going to be doing the Sunday games. All right, so
There we go.
there we go. So I shared my screen. So there's a couple of people because, as you know, there are two games on Sunday. That is Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills, and then the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. That's a 6:30 game, 6:25 game, by course. All right. So we're going to be looking at Joe Mixon. Now, the one I'm paying attention to is Joe Mixon with the 49 and a half rushing yards. And my issue is with the Cincinnati Bengals is their offensive line. So if Joe Mixon is not having a field day, then more likely then he will not have a great game. And plus the game is at Buffalo. So if you have Joe Mixon as the over 49 and a half, you're hoping that the Cincinnati Bengals get off to a great start. So this will be probably the first time I'm ever going to say this. I have a great feeling that this I think he's going to be under on this situation.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you're talking about the injuries on the offensive line. Apparently, there's three guys that are definitely not going to be playing. So that's a major factor for the Cincinnati Bengals, not just for their run game, it's just for their offense, period. A lot of concerns whether or not Joe Burrow's going to have enough time even to throw the football in this offense, given you're going up against one of the better defenses in football, too, as well. So you're on the road in a playoff game where you need to have Joe Mixon at his best, or you need to have things for all intents and purposes, clicking on all cylinders offensively, and you're just going into the game hamstrung already, given that you had those injuries in the offensive line. So it's a big thing for the running game for Joe Mixon, but it's also a big thing for Joe Burrow, uh, Jamar Chase, and the rest of that receiving core as well too.
Yes, exactly. And then another one I'm looking at for the player props is Josh Allen with the 280 passing yards. And last time I took the over for the rush yards, but unfortunately he did not get that. But oh, this is a very tough one for this one. I'm gonna probably gonna say under with the 280 passing yards because Cincinnati has that defense, and it wouldn't be surprising if that game is close. And I don't think he'll probably have more than 45 and a half rush yards. I can see this game as a very defensive game between these two.
Yeah, a lot of factors come into play when you're talking about Josh Allen and getting over that total, which is, by the way, it's set perfectly. Vegas, Atlantic City, and all the powers that be when it comes to setting these props are pretty much spot on because you're trying to gauge, what he's going to do as far as through the air and also with his rushing skills, right? This is a guy that can probably rush for 70, 75 yards easily in this football game as well, too. And the score, the weather, and the matchup's going to dictate a lot of what Josh Allen does. So I would tend to disagree with you though, Shawn. I think he's going to barely go over the 280 as far as passing yards are concerned. But look, the number's right there on it, and so I think it's just kind of a feel. It's just a personal feel as to what side you want to go. You think he's going to go just under, or you think he's going to go just over? Personally, I think he's going to. It's going to be kind of I think it's going to be kind of a shootout game, despite the fact that Cincinnati has issues as far as the offensive line, and I think that's going to lend well for both Joe Burrow and Josh Allen as far as passing yards are concerned in this tilt.
Now, speaking of Joe Burrow, they have Joe Burrow as a 283.5 passing yards. Now, it wouldn't be surprising if Joe Burrow have more than 283.5 passing yards because, with Joe Burrow's arm and strength and plus those wide receivers he got, I can see this definitely as an over with Joe Burrow because this should be no problem giving that 283.5.
Oh, no doubt about it, right, Shawn? You think about this Bengals receiving core from Jamar Chase to T. Higgins and across the board. It is, and the obvious thought is, oh, yeah, they're going to be in Buffalo, so there's a chance they could be behind in this game. And if they're behind by double digits, then this is a Bengals team that's going to be out there slinging it around. So Joe Burrow, if you have the over on Joe Burrow as far as the player props concerned, and this is a team that's down 10 points or even more, you're going to be kind of sitting pretty, to be honest with you, even if they do lose the football game, because the Bengals offense is going to have to shift from any type of Joe Mixon or running game scenario where they're going to be airing it out against the likes, even against a quality Buffalo Bills team.
So not only do I see the passing yards, because you can actually go, matter of fact, with the 283.5, you can actually go both with the over 283.5, and you can go over 26 completion. I can see both of those happen between these two.
Yeah, no doubt. You could probably and look here in Vegas, they get even more detailed. You can go across. There's a couple shops here where you can get all kinds of crazy detail when it comes to props and look for some hedges and look for some opportunities where in other parts of the country you wouldn't necessarily have that kind of variety.
So those are the three player props I have for that game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Now we're going on to Sunday's game, by the way. Unbelievable. So the one I'm paying attention to is Devin Singletary. Okay, there we go. With the Devil Singletary. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Wrong game. I'm looking for Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, take that in.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Deebo Samuel. Now, pay attention. This game is in Santa Clara. So I see both. I can see both of these happening, by the way, with the 56.5 receiving yards, and then there should be no problem giving with that 4.5 with the over 4.5 reception. So that should be no problem. But the one I'm really paying attention to is the receiving yards because you see how Deebo Samuel was with the Seattle Seahawks, which they won in the close game. And this is a Dallas team that could play defense. So this could be either by a close one or this could be like an upset. I'm not saying like it is not going to be an upset, but it could happen. And you're also thinking like this game could be a blowout. So I'm confident with the 4.5, no question about that. But I'm paying attention to is the 56.5 receiving yards. And you also got to look at the volume of Chris McCaffrey, which we'll be talking about that later on. So what do you see in this one for Deebo?
Yeah, well, what's interesting is if you think this game's going to be a blowout, which I don't, you absolutely should be looking at the over when it comes to Deebo because he's going to be super active. He's going to be, he's a major part of the offense. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey also is going to be a major factor. And by the way, I have Christian McCaffrey over on yardage too. Not to jump the gun, but there's no doubt that if you do think that's going to be that type of game, the thing is though, I mean, you're talking about you just talked about Dallas' defense, and they showed out right against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week.
Right.
But I think both of these defenses are outstanding, and you could absolutely, in my opinion, see a 24-20 type of game that takes place up in Santa Clara tomorrow. And so obviously when I'm saying that's an under game. So I'm kind of torn because I think the defenses are going to show out, and I think that Dallas is going to continue from a defensive standpoint with Micah and those guys Mike and the boys to continue to play well. And I think they're going to be solid against the Niners. The problem is I think the Niners are just a little bit better football team.
Yeah.
And offensively, you're going to be able to manufacture a few more points than Dallas will. And just a tad bit more respect for the San Francisco 49ers defense than I do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, all things considered. So I'm going to be taking a look at some with the exception of Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to be taking a look at a lot of props under with the offensive guys in this matchup.
All right, because I have no problem with the 4.5 reception. That should be easy, but the 56.5, this is like a risk. So it's like, and then also Dallas defense plays a part in that. So he'll probably get like between like 58 or 53, some receiving yard, something like that.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And again, look, Vegas and the East Coast are spot on, right? When it comes to these numbers, they're in this business for a reason because they can line it up perfectly.
Exactly.
So yeah, but again, like I said, with the exception of Christian McCaffrey and maybe Brock Purdy too. Like I love that him to go over the rushing yards too, Brock Purdy in this game. With the exception of those two, though, I'm probably going to be looking at unders on pretty much most of the offensive factor players in this matchup between the Niners and the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, when we speak about Christian McCaffrey, now I see this as an over 4 receptions. You're a proper person looking at this game. You're more likely going to look at the receptions more than like the receiving yards and the rushing yards, like what type of volume catches or carries they're going to have. So as you were saying, like I can see both. I can see this game as a defensive game. It'll probably be like in the 40s, if like a 40s in terms of like total and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the way I can see this game. But for Christian McCaffrey, as I was looking at it, according to USA Today, because I'm looking at the 67.5 rushing yards. So according to USA Today, McCaffrey rushes for 67 yards per game this season, which falls short of Sunday's prop total of 67.5 yards. In 8 of the 18 games so far, McCaffrey has rushed more than 67.5 rushing yards, and that has set this season with the 60.9 is lower than his rushing yard average on this year. So he hit the over on his rushing yards prop in total in 10 of his 18 opportunities this year with 55.6%. So I think this is a little bit I think this is a really bit too high with the rushing yards. But this is where I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna say this is an under for McCaffrey. Because I know people gonna look at me crazy, be like, why are you gonna take that as an under? It's like, pay attention to that Dallas defense. It's not gonna be a blowout just like you said.
Yeah, it makes some sense. You got, look, and you talked about the receptions too, right? For Christian McCaffrey, a big factor in that is how much of a safety blanket is Brock Purdy going to think of Christian McCaffrey as, right? When it comes to this offensive game plan going up against Dallas, right? Because you still got a young quarterback. I get it. He played pretty well as a young quarterback, but he's still young in the playoffs, and it's a big time spot here for him. And if you figure out of that offense, with the exception of Deebo, Christian McCaffrey's probably the safety blanket guy, right? So I take a look at those four receptions, and I think absolutely over when it comes to Christian McCaffrey on that as well too. So, but if it is a tight football game, then you're probably getting some serious value going on the under when it comes to Christian McCaffrey as far as rushing yards.
And so so that's why I said like you can either do this, like you can either take the four reception, which would probably be the safest one, but if it's like a defensive game, like I was saying earlier, it will be like an under. So it's like if it's like a tight game, like I said, I can see that as an under as well. So that's the way I see it. And looking at a Dallas Cowboy, and George Kittle's 4 receptions, that should be a no problem. So y'all can take that one. But the one I'm looking for, if you're looking at the Cowboys, is you're looking at Dak Prescott. Now with Dak Prescott, you don't know what type of Dak Prescott you're going to even see. And, the Cowboys have not won a divisional playoff game in like years. You know what I mean? Of course, they did defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, if you did your research, you would find like, you know what? They could beat the Buccaneers, which they did. So I really do not see over 254.5 or a 22.5 completion because, like I said, I don't know what type of Dak Prescott you see because last week he did throw for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interception with 143.3. So with this situation, I actually see both of these as under for 2.5. You could disagree with me on this one. I could see this for both of these as an under for these two. I don't think he'll get 254.5, especially with that 49ers defense.
Yeah, I can see where you're going here. And again, I mean, I bring up the if it is a game where they're down double digits, right, or some type of situation where they need to come back, that kind of lends to him having to air it out a little bit. That being said, look, last week they kind of defied all the odds, right, when it came to the numbers game. I mean, this is a Cowboys team that hadn't won on the road in the playoffs since 1992, right, or 93, I believe.
Right.
So. They were able to snap that. Obviously, everybody was talking about the Tom Brady stat too. Tom Brady's 7-0 against the Cowboys in all time in his career, and that was snapped too as well. So you almost want to think about the Dallas Cowboys. Are they going to win 2 games on the road now in the playoffs? Are they going to win their second game after the win last week against Tampa Bay? I tend to think that the Cowboys are a team that's probably they played a kind of a Super Bowl type game last week in that, they kind of got over the hump there. They were able to kind of shake off those ugly stats that they've had. And now they kind of face the music in that, you're facing a team in the San Francisco 49ers, better football team. I think a team that is absolutely could roll to the Super Bowl in the NFC. And all things go through them except for Philadelphia. So I think it's a tough spot for Dak Prescott. And you brought it up, Shawn, that Niners defense. The Niners defense is not your Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And look, the Tampa Bay's had a decent defense for the last 2-3 years, no question. But it's not the San Francisco 49ers defense. So I would probably tend to agree with you that I think Dak Prescott, all things considered, and if it is a close game, like we pointed out, if it is one of those 25-21 type of games, then Dak's not going to be out there just willy-nilly slinging it around like it's a free-for-all. Yeah, both quarterbacks are throwing for 350 and 4 touchdown type of game.
All right, so I have Joe Mixon under 49.5 rushing yards, 280.5 pass yards for Josh Allen. Which, of course, you disagreed because you said that's over, by the way. Let me get this out the way. Joe Burrow, 283.5 pass yards. That should be over. Deebo Samuel, over 4.5 receptions. That's a no-brainer. Then the over with the Mccaffrey, because I feel that's more of a safe one than it is with the rushing yards because we were talking about this particular game. This could be like a really close game. And then Dak Prescott over 22.5. Now, is there any other players you're looking at for for tomorrow's game? A particular player that people need to pay attention to, in your opinion?
Well, I'm looking at a game that I'm looking at is tonight is the Philadelphia Eagles against the New York Giants. I'm looking for Saquon Barkley to have a big time game, even in a loss for the New York Giants tonight. And so I think he's going to kind of continue what he was able to do last week against the Minnesota Vikings and be pretty effective when it comes to his rushing yards. So I'm looking at his rushing yards over. You know who else I'm looking at too, Shawn? I'm looking at A.J. Brown also for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think A.J. is primed to have a big-time game for Philadelphia. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, it's really his first real test when it comes to a playoff-type situation. So I think that he's going to lean heavily on A.J. Brown, and that's going to be a major factor for them. And so I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver over on both receptions and receiving yards in the game tonight as the New York Giants visit the Philadelphia Eagles.
And the interesting thing about this is they haven't played. This is the first time they played since 2009. Well, 2008, 2009. I was like, wait a second, they played each other before.
Wait a minute.
Of course, the Eagles did win that game, and they lost.
Oh, you're talking about in the playoffs?
Eagles and Giants.
Okay, yeah.
playoffs, in the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think it's not really a factor. To be honest with you, it's not really a factor given that you're talking about turnover of rosters. You're talking about guys that weren't even in college back then that are now marquee players for both. Yeah, marquee players for both these franchises. So there's obviously a massive difference between 2000. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, Sean. All right, Detroit Lions are a lot different team back in 2009.
So.
Yeah, than they are here in 2023. So a little bit different, but no. But I can see. I can pick up what you're putting down as far as looking at the playoffs. So everybody wants to look at numbers in the past, but this is a Philadelphia Eagles team along with the San Francisco 49ers, that has all their eyes set on a possible Super Bowl return for this team because obviously they've recently been to a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. They're gonna be ready to roll at home, and that's gonna be a tough atmosphere and a tough place to play for the New York Giants. Yes, you like what they did. They go on the road. They beat a Minnesota Vikings team that essentially did what Minnesota Viking teams do in the playoffs, but not an easy spot for the New York Giants to head in there against both the Philadelphia Eagles defense as well as offensively what the Eagles can bring to the table. And also we have recent history, which is this year where I want to say they got blasted, the New York Giants, when they played in Philadelphia just a matter of weeks ago. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
Exactly, because this year this is probably like the best playoff ever since they expanded, and plus this is Fox first. Well, this is Kevin, and plus this is Kevin Burkhardt first season as a top play-by-play commentator, but also doing the Super Bowl, which you hardly ever see that from a sports broadcast experience, especially in the NFL. So that's what's making
because Kevin Burkhardt was a guy who was one of the guys who was like the middle tier guys. Did a lot of Lions games actually. Kevin Burkhardt did. And now he's become one of the marquee guys when it comes to Fox as far as who they put out. And look, he deserves. He's pretty good, and I'm a fan of his work, so he's pretty solid. So I think it's a good choice by Fox to do that. But you're right. There's going to be a lot of exciting action going down. Exciting action going down right now in Kansas City as both the Jaguars and Chiefs tied at 7 as in that game, and spurred by a Jaguars big kick return, by the way. That got them to position to get that tying touchdown.
So it looks like Kevin and Greg also will be calling the Dallas and San Francisco game, and then Joe Davis and Daryl Johnson will call the Giants and the Eagles game. So that does make sense because Sunday games are mostly like the bigger, exciting ones that it is on Saturday. So that does make sense.
And we're I don't know about you, Shawn, but I'm a big Joe Davis guy, obviously, because of the Michigan connection, right? He's a Michigan guy from my neck of the woods there, right near Lansing. So, yeah. And he does a great job. And by the way, it's hilarious because during the baseball season, I know this isn't really related, but during the baseball season, Joe Davis is the Los Angeles Dodgers television guy, but he's also a Fox baseball guy as well, too. And he does games with John Smoltz, another mid-Michigan guy, obviously people. From both Michigan guys from Lansing, from the Lansing area. So super cool for us Lansing people to see both Joe doing very well. And Joe's great too, by the way. And John Smoltz, of course, the Hall of Famer. What can you say about John? But great to see those guys doing well. And Joe does a tremendous job. And then Joe is essentially the number one. It's not Burkhardt's not the number one guy. It's essentially Joe Davis now, who's the number one guy for Fox. If it's not, if it's not the likes of, I think Joe Buck's not even is he with Fox anymore? I don't know if he is. But,
Joe Buck's with ESPN. So Joe Buck's on ESPN. Yeah. Joe Davis like the number one guy for the baseball. He's number two for the football, and Buck is the number one for football, and he's a studio host for the baseball. So it's kind of cool when you see both of them working together. I like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So. Those guys will be on the call for these instrumental games this weekend, Shawn. Should be good stuff, catching all the NFL action.
And where can my listeners find you on social media, by the way, and your show?
Yeah, I'm all over the place here and out here in Las Vegas, Shawn. I do sports radio across the board, Fox Sports Radio here in Las Vegas on the weekends and during the week too. Also with KDWN, which is a large talk station out here. We do a lot of sports with Sports X Radio. It's a weekly show. Excuse me,
Ken
a
Thompson.
daily show with Ken Thompson. Do his show a lot too. You can find me on social media at Christian Winn on Twitter, at CWin77 on Instagram, Meta, and Facebook, and at Christian William Winn on Facebook as well too. So all over the place. And I always love to
And
chop it up when it comes to the sports world.
exactly. And also, you guys can see my social page, by the way, S4A Stewart, by the way. I'm available on Facebook, not only on Instagram and Twitter, but also on Facebook as well. So, just Facebook, Twitter, Instagram / S4A Stewart. Then you can follow me right there. So, those are your games for Sunday. And of course, this will be on YouTube and Rumble. And I'm going to have to cut the parts on TikTok as well, because TikTok only does like 10 minutes. So, that wouldn't be a problem. By the way, and like I said before, the SuperDraft Sportsbook is available in all 50 states because it's not gambling, it's more gaming. And head on to superdraftpro.com /S4A Stewart. I'll put the link there, and there will be like a 1-minute video. And then after you look at that 1-minute video, click on Get Started, choose your package, and then wham, there you go.
Good stuff, Shawn. Have a
That's
great
it.
weekend and
You guys have
enjoy
a
the
nice and
football.
wonderful evening. I absolutely will.